we consider nothing is a waste. First of all, that mindset change, I'll go back to what we started. This is a mindset change. Don't look at anything as a waste. Look at everything as a value.
We gradually starts integrating each and every silos which organization has earlier. Eventually creating a system or a virtual twin where everything is connected. Every data point is available as per the business need of the organization, and at the right time, organization and leadership is able to take the right decision to stay on course of sustainability.
As India targets a net zero economy by 2070 and a 45% reduction in emissions intensity by 2030, its industrial sector contributing over 30% of national greenhouse gas emissions is under immense pressure to evolve. This is not just an environmental imperative, but a strategic opportunity. At the same time, the convergence of digital innovation and sustainability transformation is enabling industries to reimagine how they design, produce and deliver. From real-time emission tracking to circular product design and carbon-aware logistics, data-led decarbonization is taking the center stage. In this episode of India Leadership Talk series, we talk to Prabodh Acharya, who is the Group Chief Sustainability Officer at JSW, a leader building net zero strategies for India's industrial backbone. He is also joined by Tanuj Mittal, Senior Director, Customer Solution Experience at Dassault Systèmes India, who is empowering manufacturers with digital platforms like Embed Sustainability into every stage of the value chain. Together, they explore how digital tools like simulation, digital twins, IoT, life cycle analysis are helping India in transition from compliance-driven ESG to competitive green innovation. Hello and welcome to India Leadership Talk series. Mr. Prabodh Acharya, first of all, I would like to understand from you about the digital transformation happening in the sustainability sector. So just to open the context for the audience, India is currently at the peak of its pollution. You know, if you see the cities in India are going through a rapid transformation, how do you see this newest technologies like data monitoring, visibility and AI modeling helping to trace the emissions, especially for the group like JSW?
First of all, thank you very much for the question, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you for being here in our premises. To start with, if you look at India as a country, we are in a growth path. That means economy activities are growing, and therefore industrialization is supporting those growth. And I would see that industrialization will peak. Emissions are always associated with the industrial activity, but the question is that as we grow, as the economy grow, the emission need to be decoupled from the growth. You are absolutely right in the sense that we are in the emissions map, but look at our objective. We have clearly articulated by 2070 India will achieve its net zero. But at the same time, our emissions will peak by 30 or 40 and then it will start reducing. This is where the role of technology comes into play. Technology's role in two ways. The first way is how do we monitor and know exactly what our emissions are. That is the role of technology, because there is a saying, you know, if you do not monitor, you cannot control. So that is where technology will help you in monitoring and controlling. The second part, technology also will help you in reducing the emissions. To address the first part and the context of the JSW, look, when India is targeting to achieve their net zero by 2070, at JSW we are targeting to achieve net zero by 2050, 20 years before, 2 decades ahead of national targets.
Right. And I think your mid-term goal is also to reduce 42% emissions by 2030.
Absolutely right. Thank you for bringing that point. Not only we have put our aim at 2050, we are also progressively giving the target by 2030. We want to reduce our emission intensity by 42% from the base year 2005, which is India's base year. Now, how do we achieve? And before we answer the questions of how do we achieve and fix it, we also need to know where we stand, are we monitoring them correctly, do we know exactly where we are, and that is where we are putting system and processes, technological processes and systems to understand and monitor them accurately. Recently we have implemented a system called Spera cloud based sustainability software systems, where we are monitoring each and every emission sources, and that is where the technology is helping us in monitoring and reporting, and then we are deploying technology to reduce the emissions.
So, very well said. What you cannot monitor, you cannot control. Tanuj, would like to understand from you, from the technology perspective, how digital technologies like AI, modeling and things like that, I've asked from Mr. Prabodh, how are you helping to integrate these technologies to companies like JSW? It's a big group. How do they trace everything? And would like to understand from you about how this digital integrated and low carbon emissions can happen.
First of all, Deepanshu and Mr. Acharya, thank you very much for having me here today and to discuss this very important topic which has been in all the talk shows of late recently. Sustainability as a topic is very close to the heart in Dassault Systèmes and very tightly integrated with our philosophy of product development. Our core offering is 3D experience platform which helps organization in creating a virtual twin of the physical assets, of the processes and of the system. Like Mr. Acharya just mentioned, first and foremost, and especially in the case of a brownfield project, you have to create a baseline as to what is your current level of emissions. From there, you start improving day in and day out to see how close you can go to net zero eventually. Digital twin or the virtual twin is something which you create helps organization in this direction. So with a virtual twin, you will be able to measure each an activity which is contributing towards carbon footprint. Then with the value engagement exercise, you can really define where to cut, what to optimize, how to improve productivity, then eventually go in this direction of net zero. So this virtual twin becomes the core of any organization when it comes to driving the sustainability agenda. So that is our offering.
Right. So technologies like digital twin, and you especially mentioned about the virtual twin. What is the percentage range that companies JSW can reduce initially just after implementation of this technology?
So percentage will differ from company to company, basis the baseline they currently have. But the major impact comes in the designing phase itself. So if you do it right the first time, with all the guidance which virtual twin will give you, you can reduce up to 80% footprint going forward. But if it is already a brownfield where much changes cannot be done, achieving 20 to 30% is not difficult, I would say.
So I was reading one survey from World Economic Forum. So they quoted that around you can reduce this resource consumption by 20 to 30% and cut emissions by around 10 to 15% if you implement digital technologies like virtual twin and digital twins to the systems early. Would like to understand from you, because largely sustainability as subject is mistaken towards only emissions or reducing or efficient manufacturing, but it is also about sustainable business. So could you put some context to all this discussion currently from the business point of view?
Yeah, I mean, see, what I am trying to make people understand that it is to make business sustainable. Now, what do you mean by business sustainable? Means if I am running a business, so for example, in JSW, if I am making steel, I will be consider myself sustainable if I continue doing steel making when all other competitors are stopped making steel. Okay, that means I remain what I am doing and keep doing what I am supposed to do. But how do we do that? So we have to be really careful. What are the issues is going to impact my business? There could be some issues which will happen outside our boundary. For example, geopolitical issue, climate change happening. It's not because of only for my business, but climate emergency is happening, and that's going to impact my business, right? Inequality in the society, that's going to impact my business, right? Nature loss, which is happening on an unprecedented level, that's going to impact my business. So how as a business I am getting prepared to manage those issues? Why are you talking about CO2 emissions now so frequently which we were not discussing 30 years before. Because 30 years before we are never understanding what could be the impact. Now we have realized that this is going to disrupt the way we make business or the way we live. So therefore, if I have to be if I want to build a sustainable business model, I have to have a process to manage what are those issues happening outside my business, have a profound impact on my business, and how do I prepare action plans to remain resilient to those issues. That's one part. The second part, as a business, I create an impact. That impact are mostly positive, but I could create some negative impacts, right? See, for example, I consume resources, I consume a lot of water, and therefore I can create a negative impact. When I produce say, steel or cement, I will be emitting some dust particles that create a negative impact. Again, as a business, I have to develop system and processes to manage those negative impact to accelerate the positive impact. What are the positive impact? We provide economic support to the country for the growth, we provide social benefits, we provide economic benefits, we provide employment. So all these are positive benefits. That's why business exists. What is the purpose of the business? Is to solve a societal problem. So when you solve a societal problem, in the process also you create problem. Now I have to build if I am in a business, I have to build a system which manages those negative impacts, minimizes those negative impacts, amplify the positive impact. That's all about business sustainability. And that is why we are talking more of emission at the moment, because we know this is a critical factor which is going to impact each and everybody, including my business.
So, Tanuj, since you're talking about the societal problems and how business are able to manage through digital technologies, how do you see the struggle of scaling digital sustainable programs at scale in the context of groups like JSW, which have like multiple companies and multiple traceability? How are things working at your end?
So I think for any digital initiative to be successful, and in our experience, it all starts with the mindset. The commitment organization has towards going digital to take a sustainability benefit. If that is there, half of the problem is anyway solved. Rest comes the technology. There is ample technology, but there are best practices also. How to use that technology, implement it, and take the benefits out. So we usually start with assessing what is the current stage the company is in terms of their digital footprint and where they want to go eventually. So we, along with the company, we create a roadmap wherein the low-hanging fruits, which something we can do easily and immediately, are taken first to demonstrate the benefit to the organization and create the motivation which is required in the organization. Because any digital initiative is also a cultural change for the organization. So if you show early success, it motivates everybody to work in the same direction. So once the roadmap is done and the low-hanging fruits are realized, then in a phased manner, depending upon the objective of the organization, we gradually starts integrating each and every silos which organization has earlier. Eventually creating a system or a virtual twin where everything is connected. Every data point is available as per the business need of the organization, and at the right time, organization and leadership is able to take the right decision to stay on course of sustainability.
Right, I got it. Mr. Acharya, how difficult, easy it is for you to make the management understand the importance of digital technologies, or are they really adaptive because of the current scenario? How you have been into the industry for long, so not just JSW, in your career, how is the mindset in the industry right now?
If you want to really drive the mindset change, you have to put in their shoe and talk to them in their own language, and you have to find how they get or how it helps to meet their KPI or their objectives, not your objective. Because see, at the end, we as the chief sustainability officers, we are catalyst. We make things happen, we don't do things. So we have to do the catalyst job by changing the mindset of the people who are actually able to change the things.
So you have a very important catalyst in the JSW group. You have given a lot of best practices also. But now let's talk about the ecosystem part, the suppliers, the mindset there. how do you implement these things which you are applied to, because we talked about the scope 3 emissions in your supply chain, in your raw material supplier. How do you do that? Are you helping them, hand-holding them to, because as a group, it's your responsibility also to handhold the supplier, tier 1 and tier 2s to be at your level?
No, you are absolutely sure. You know, the business success depends on resilience of your supply chain, right? If you don't work with your supply chain, you do not exist. So therefore, it is very essential to work with the supply chain effectively and efficiently. Fortunately, as far as emission is concerned, my challenge is a scope 1 challenge, not a scope 3 challenge. In the sense, my scope 3 emissions is in single digit. So it is less than 10% of my total emissions. So therefore, my focus will remain on what is important is my scope 1 challenge. But in general, if you look at the emissions, scope 3 is always a challenge. But then the bigger challenge is exactly knowing how much scope 3 emissions you are. See, you can monitor the emissions which you caused within your factory boundary, but monitoring the emission which is happen in the supply chain is really a difficult matter. What we have done.
So let's ask Tanuj, are there any frameworks, reports, reporting methods from the technology point of view where you can help Mr. Acharya to achieve the reduction in scope 3, and that's how we can help this country also to reduce emissions?
Right. So in the ideal world, from scope 1 to scope 2 to scope 3, if all are connected on a single platform and have the required visibility, then the job is done. But we don't have an ideal world, of course. In terms of technology, the technology is available where the entire ecosystem can be on a single platform. If not a single platform, the technology is still available that multiple platforms collaborate and connect with each other to give a unified view to whoever wants to see this. So from technology perspective, we don't have an issue. The issue is the control. Scope 1 will be in his absolute control. He can drive things very easily. But when you go from 1 to 3, the level of control you have decreases because it is not your organization, not your ecosystem. Then you need to create systems and processes where the sustainability is also one of the criteria of selection. For example, when you do a new product or a new system, today we are concerned about safety, we create a parameters of safety. We are concerned about cost, we create a framework of cost, and so on. Similarly, if you also create a framework of sustainability for the incoming material, for your consumers as well, that is how you solve the problem. And this is so robust in terms of volume of work. Without having a digital system in place, it is difficult to drive and monitor. Right. So in terms of technology, just to reiterate, technology is there, but we need to create those systems and processes which is implemented across the ecosystem.
Right. Let me give an example. What he's telling, I completely in agreement. How it happens. We started giving a supplier code of conduct. That means if anybody wants to do business with JSW, they have to meet this sustainability requirement in your language, but I call it as a business requirement. So when I saw after 2 years, everybody is signing that we are meeting. The question is that nobody has come back and told me that I cannot meet this, or so that led to think, how do I know these guys who have signed and actually they are meeting? That is where we put up a supply chain sustainability platform as a technology supplier. So they have, we worked with them and we installed that from last 1 year. Now we have onboarded almost 250 large supplier in there, and now we can see how much they are meeting, what is their scope 1 emission, what is the scope 2 emissions. That means indirectly what is my scope 3 emissions. So now it is digitized and we could see that. So yes, the digital tool technology is definitely needed to understand where you stand, and therefore you can take actions to make your supply chain also viable and sustainable.
Right. So now we have discussed about reducing emissions, efficiency, business aspect of sustainability, scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. One important part is reducing waste and circularity. So how are you approaching this particular subject?
It is ingrained in our business model.
Okay.
we consider nothing is a waste. First of all, that mindset change, I will go back to what we started. This is a mindset change. Don't look at anything as a waste, look at everything has a value. So therefore, we call it product and co-product or byproduct, we don't call it as a waste. So what we do, we look at everything which is coming in has to be converted to a value based output. See, for example, when we make iron and steel, we produce lot of slag. It used to be waste. I remember I started career 33 years before, and I started in steel industry. When I, after the college, from passing out from IIT, when I visited a steel plant, I first noticed that there are big hills. Now, what are these hills? When I inquired, no, these are slags, these are waste. They used to be waste. Now you know what we are doing? We are selling everything for and it is going for cement making. So we are, it's adding a value, it's a revenue stream, it is reducing resource consumption in another sector, plus it has helped in reducing the waste disposal problem, which was taking lot of land which are valuable in India at least.
Also the profits of the company.
Everybody is happy. That's called circular model.
Right.
Similarly, the gas, when we produce coke, which is very essential product for making iron and steel, there are a lot of waste gas comes. So this gas we take and use for heat generation, electricity generations. So good for everybody. In fact, the dust which comes from the chimneys, we collect them through back filter and ESP from air pollution control equipment, then take it to a plant called sinter plant. Sinter plant is nothing but a waste to wealth plant. All this waste which comes from steel industry goes to sinter plant, we make them, sintering means we make them bigger quantity, again put in the blast furnace and make steel. So I would say, as I started, nothing is waste. Nothing is waste.
Right. So moving forward, how do you see the overall efforts towards sustainability using technology? Where are we moving as a country? I would like to understand from both of you.
As a country, if you look at circularity, it's very much a important aspect. Even our Prime Minister has given focus, it is reflected in our budget. Even in G20, there is a specific work stream was created on this circularity, which is led by FICCI and many of the industries are member. So circular model, in fact, if you look at Indian way of life, way of living is based on circularity. I remember in childhood, we used to purchase milk in the cans, Amul cans. They used to come in tin cans. The tin cans, after the Amul is finished, used to be used for storing masalas, dal, rice. So Indian way of life is that we don't waste anything. Everything is a resource for way. So we need to go back to our Indian way of life, I called, and that is the best example of circularity. And therefore, I always tell India is way ahead in circular economy. The concept is well known, it is in our blood.
Tanuj, your viewpoints and then we'll close.
So, first and foremost, the good thing is that as a country, we have already defined our goal that by 2070, we are going to be net zero. The one big trend which we have observed and which is in the right direction is to adopt technology to make the enterprise more efficient, less of waste, mostly byproducts, no waste. And technology is playing a very big role, whether it is blockchain, whether it is virtual twin, whether it is any other technology, it is playing a great role. Third and most important, creating awareness and skilled manpower around this topic. So more and more we have talk shows like this, we are creating awareness for the people who have not thought about this topic, right. Because unless everybody
especially
contributes.
Tier 1 and Tier 2 suppliers, yes. And who are not really big groups. And I think, technology companies like yours, you should have a program where you can, help these companies, because your technology is really expensive, I believe. I don't know actual, but yeah, for them at least to implement or to have a program where, they can shift their mindset or they can learn about these things.
Yes and no.
And from his point of view also, yeah. It makes a business case as well. Not just, we are not just doing any, we are doing a good deed as well as doing good for our business?
So eventually you are talking about scope 3, right? Where in scope 1, the organization like JSW, they have the talent, they have the people, they have the investment required to go in this direction. But when you talk about smaller enterprises, the starting cost become a bottleneck for them. For those set of organization, our offering is on cloud, where you don't need expensive IT hardware to leverage the technology for sustainability. And it is modular, which means you don't have to buy everything in one go. You can grow with the technology as you earn money. And second is we invest a lot on scaling up the manpower, because if the skilled manpower is available to scope 3 companies and scope 1 companies, pushing this agenda of sustainability becomes much easier. Having technology and, to your point, using it effectively for the ultimate goal is two different things. So we invest a lot in skill development. We work very closely with educational institutes to train the students on these technologies.
Thank you so much, Mr. Prabodh and Mr. Tanuj, for talking to us on sustainability, and stay tuned for more episodes at ET Manufacturing.